in the mind of this truck driver. I can't tell from this angle whether it's a man or a woman, but I just imagine someone who was doing their job on a Friday, perhaps thinking about going home to their family, and then your truck goes off the side of a bridge and you think it's the end, but the ingenuity of America's best, our first responders, show up. Wow.
Louisville Metro Police now say that they have not been able to confirm anything more about the collision that started this, but this did involve other vehicles. And so what happened after that collision, again, we don't have all the context of that. There was somebody inside the truck cabin, part of the trailer hovering over the freezing Ohio River. Rescuer goes down. From what we believe, and Emily was pointing out, we're trying to figure out, well, who's responding exactly. But this is a situation that you see they're back near the lip of the bridge and unable as of yet to get pulled in, but they are trying mightily to make that happen. The Clark Memorial Bridge, or 2nd Street Bridge as it is called. Oh my goodness, they're so close. He's got his feet almost on the railing. They can almost reach him. And as I said, the Lord is working a miracle right now before our eyes. And I don't know how he continues to hang on, how they hang on to each other. This is Louisville, Kentucky. The water below freezing. I mentioned if you hit it at this height, it's going to feel like cement, and he got his foot.
Wow.
They've got the left foot of one of the men.
Wow.
You see the ropes that are tethered to the rescuers.
Watch this, babe.
Harness.
It's a miracle to get this guy off alive.
They're trying to pull him
or
down.
girl, whoever it is the
I wish
driver.
we had sound to this. But there, I can only imagine there's got to be some cheers. The cheers to go with all the tears. Oh, there you go. They got him.
He's safe.
They got him. They're both safe. God bless him. I hope he's not injured from the truck's initial going off the bridge after a collision involving several other vehicles. Okay. So as we learn more about that situation and where it led up to, we'll let you know. But for now, more outnumbered in a moment.
Wow.
Every day,
it's like my Chicago fire show. It really is. That's what it's like. Wow.
Made from real
well, nobody's answering now.
And delivered right to your door.
Nobody's answering. They don't want to talk to me now, Bill.
Who are you trying to call?
The courthouse. I'm standing there at the phone. He stands up on his hind leg and he's scratching my legs like a scratch post. He's snagged my pants. He says, I can't help it. I just here to say hi. And that tells me that he really loves me, that he's scratching on my leg. I don't know why we did that. He's a little apprehensive right now, Daddy, because it's raining out and he doesn't.
I'm not going to take a picture of you. I want to, but I'm not.
He doesn't like.
Will you be on the? You got to be on the show with me.
No.
I can take a picture right now. It's a pretty picture.
No.
He'd like it.
No, he wouldn't.
Yes, he would.
No, he wouldn't.
He's smiling at me right now. He's saying, "Dad, take my picture, Dad."
Say no way. Say no way. No way. No. No, no, no. Says the man with the missing teeth.
Yeah, right.
Say the man with the missing teeth. Yeah. He got the missing teeth. Now I got white hair all over me. Look. And this is after terminating him. Let's play. Come on, let's play. I want to play, man. I'm bored. It's a rainy day. Let's hang out and play, man. Let's play. Come on, let's play. You could have used my narrative.
Now, my nurse today come by us by technology, and her name is, give us your name now.
Lauren.
Lauren, and it just so happens that she is an excellent nurse, and she's really analyzed my situation very thoroughly, and she's going to help me feel better, I'm quite sure. Because you know something? It just makes your joyful heart to see someone that knows how to care for someone with proper credentials and with the art of love. because the greatest gift that God gave us is the gift of love. As I always tell everybody, it's the Holy Spirit's job to convict, it's God's job to judge, it's my job to love. And boy, with Lauren helping me, I'll be back to loving again soon. Take care now, folks. God bless you and have a great day.
Houses, on-site dining, pickleball, and more. Effortless, low-maintenance living. Valencia. Live life well. Experience more at Valencia Blue.
This one. I got you. I want to make the most of it.
More than prescribed, breastfeeding may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if worsened breathing, chest pain, mouth or tongue swelling, problems urinating, vision changes, or eye pain occur.
Ask your doctor about breastfeeding. Cops is back on Fox Nation. The only place to watch new episodes.
Welcome back. It's time for the fastest. First up, a terrifying scene in Louisville, Kentucky. A semi-truck hanging off a bridge after crashing into the guardrail, looking like it could fall into the river at any moment. Brave first responders rescuing the driver. She is safe. The firefighter who performed the incredible rescue speaking out.
Thank God. That's what she kept saying, thank God. And I told her, I said, just take a deep breath, and then here's what I need you to do. Because I needed her to assist in, moving certain ways to be able to get the harness on right. And once we did that, we got her free of the seatbelt, and she was on my system, so I knew that we were good from there. We just needed to bring her on up. It was a team effort. Without everybody doing their job, we wouldn't be able to have successful rescue.
And right as we speak, the cab of the semi-truck is literally still dangling. But again, everyone is safe. Tyrus.
I get off at 5. I can't pick the truck up till at least 6. So I got to 6. I can't get over till about 6:30. So just
hang in there.
You know what, man? This is every time you just want to give up and say it's the world's a rut.
Like everything is terrible.
A hero stands among us and comes in and saves the day, and he gets a positive dang. So we took the ugliness of dang and we've turned it around because dang, ladies and gentlemen, that's a hero.
I mean.
Yeah, we could sit.
Yeah, well, it's anyone. Yeah,
I don't really know what to say. That's like my worst nightmare that I never knew I had.
Or every.
Oh, I mean, that's all the time.
Terrible. Do you think it would be worse to be hanging there like that, if not be rescued, or to actually have your vehicle like fall in the water and you
I would rather hang than
definitely worse.
You die in the water, right?
Try to get out of the truck.
If that goes in the water, you're screwed.
So it was a female driver? Is that what happened?
I knew.
I'm not saying that she was a female driver. I'm just asking because I want to know from the females at the table. When the female driver was rescued by that heroic, strapping young man, do you think she has feelings for him now?
What did you say?
You heard
romantic
feelings? That's the worst question I've ever heard in my life.
Do you think if you're dangling and this man has you like this around and he's saving your life, do you think you might develop feelings?
I think I'm grateful, yes.
The producers are actually trying to save your job, so I've got to move on. Up next, who in their right mind works out at 4 in the morning? This guy.
I'm his brother.
Is that who it is?
Doctor's good, huh?
Mark Wahlberg showing off his ripped physique, grinding in the gym for his daily 4 a.m. workout session in a video he posted. He also starts his day with a cold plunge, sitting in a 35-degree tub of water and ice. I'm very interested in cold plunges.
I've been doing cold plunges.
You've done it?
I've done it.
Yep. What's it like?
Where do you? It's not that bad.
Is it not?
It's like horrible, and then you get used to it.
But how long do you sit in there?
3 minutes.
That's it.
At 40 degrees.
Or that's all.
What are 40 minutes?
But that's athletes sitting there. I mean, they do their interviews. Right?
What's his brother's name?
What is it good for? Okay, I might
It's good for everything. It will change your life. It's the difference between success and failure. You have to do the cold plunge. Even if you have to get in the water and a team of guys not afraid to get hit by you, dump the ice once you get in there. But you
Mark Wahlberg, his brother, we watch him on television on the shows.
I don't have a team. Yeah, how do you do it?
You gotta have a team.
There's different styles.
You can even buy stuff.
Great guy for helping veterans.
Basically, bag of ice and some water, you should be fine. Try it.
You guys are weak.
Johnny Wahlberg.
Fandale Friday's up next.
We see him on the television show. What's the name of the show? Blue Blood. Yeah, we call him Hothead. Neat.
And tonight we are broadcasting from Shelby Park in Eagle Pass, Texas, at the southern border, the Rio Grande right behind us. In just a moment, former President Donald Trump will join us exclusively for the entire hour tonight. We'll also check in with Governor Abbott. Now, earlier today, well, President Trump toured the border right here in Eagle Pass, once the epicenter of Biden's border crisis. Meanwhile, today, lo and behold, I'm sure it was a mere coincidence, for once, Joe Biden decided to take a peek at the border for himself, visiting Brownsville, Texas. And once again, well, he kind of looked lost, dazed, confused, mumbling, bumbling, stumbling after disembarking from Air Force One, of course, down the baby stairs. Now, of course, Biden chose a crossing that is relatively calm. And Border Patrol sources telling Fox News that over the last 5 days, there had only been 46 illegal immigrants apprehended in Brownsville, compared to over 2,000 right here in Eagle Pass. Now, since Joe Biden took office, there have been more than 7+ million confirmed illegal immigrants who have entered our country illegally. We'll tell you more about the countries in a minute. And well over 1 million+ gotaways, close to 10 million illegal immigrants. But for 3 long years, well, if you listen to Joe Biden, Vice President Harris, Alejandro Mayorkas, Karine Jean-Pierre, or anybody else in the administration, they've been saying to you, the American people, over and over again, that the border's closed and the border's secure. You might remember.
That sounds to most folks like a crisis. Well, look, it's way down now. We've now gotten control.
Precisely that. The border is closed.
Nor could I have been clearer and continue to be so, which is the border is closed.
The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border.
The border, we are working to make the border more secure.
Do you agree that the border is secure?
Now, starting on day one, Joe Biden and his administration, they literally, with the stroke of a pen, undid every single Trump-era policy and bragged about it. The policies that actually led the entire country to having the most secure border in our history. They used to brag about it. Here's a reminder.
So we have rescinded so many Trump immigration policies, it would take so much time to list them. We rescinded the Remain in Mexico policy. We rescinded, of course, the public charge rule that deprived vulnerable migrants from accessing certain critical life benefits. We have restored the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, the DACA program. We have rescinded so many and have restored so many that he really dismantled.
Now, for over 3+ years, this crisis has spiraled completely out of control. And as per usual, the administration, now all of a sudden, they want to blame Republicans after 3+ years of saying the border's secure, the border's closed. Now it's the Republicans' fault. Really? Take a look.
Do you bear responsibility for what is happening at the border, what the president himself has called a crisis?
It certainly is a crisis, and, well, we don't bear responsibility for a broken system, and we're doing a tremendous amount within that broken system. But fundamentally, Congress is the only one who can fix it.
I've done all I can do. immigrants from the census. He signed executive orders strengthening DACA. He canceled President Trump's interior enforcement rule. He halted construction of the border wall. He extended deportation protections for Liberians. Biden also suspended asylum deals with Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and of course, he ended the Remain in Mexico policy, and then he let Title 42 expire. But this is supposed to be Republicans' fault? Well, the country is now waking up to what is the single greatest national security threat in our lifetime. Polls now show it is by far and away the #1 issue for more Americans. Take a look at this video. Earlier this week, a vigil was held for the murdered Georgia student, nursing student, Laken Riley, allegedly killed by an illegal immigrant, in this case from Venezuela. And sadly, she is just one example. And the pathetic part is the federal government doesn't even, take a look at your screen, doesn't even keep track of all the crimes that are committed by illegal immigrants. Why don't they keep track of that? Anyway, we'll keep scrolling that. Joining us now, though, for the hour is former President Donald Trump is with us. Sir, thank you for being with us. And the day you came down the escalator, this was a big issue. You were attacked right out of the box. That day when you came down that escalator on this issue.
Well, I was hearing about it from a lot of people, and it was one of the primary reasons in 2016 that I ran. And I ran on the border, and I ran on other things, but I ran on the border largely. And we fixed the problem, and in 2020 it wasn't even a subject. I go out and say, I want to talk about the border. They say, sir, you fixed the border. Nobody cares about the border anymore. Now what's happened is since the election, where we have millions more votes than we did the first time, we have a situation where this border makes 2016 look like baby stuff. It's probably the worst border, not probably, it's the worst border ever in the history of the world. There's never been a border where 15, 16, maybe 18 million people have already crossed. And I think nobody has any idea what the number is. You know, the gotaways, they don't know what the gotaways are. We have millions and millions of people, and they come from jails and prisons. They come from mental institutions, and, you know, a step above that, the insane asylums. And it's just hard to believe. And you have terrorists coming. You know, I've noticed, as somebody that watches your show a lot, I think you do a fantastic job. But you say 100% certain, I hate to hear it, that we're going to have a big attack at some point. You're 100% afraid that I'm wrong. You're probably right. And that's a very sad thing. But I've heard you say it a few times, and I said, I'm not going to dispute it. I hope you're wrong, but there's certainly a good chance. They're coming from numbers and countries that we wouldn't believe. So you have 28,000 from China, all fighting age. You don't see women, and you don't see men much older than that. It's from 18 to 25, 26 years old. And there's something going on. And they're coming from Yemen that we're bombing. They're coming from the Congo, from prisons in the Congo. The only good thing is it makes our prisoners look like very nice people, I'll tell you, because these are rough people that are coming in. When you see them from Venezuela fighting, having fist fights with the cops, we never said that. You'd see cops bad things happen to cops, but you never saw people standing in the middle of the street in a fist fight. And if that happened in that country, they'd kill it within seconds. They wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't stand for it. So it's a very terrible thing. Our country is being poisoned. We're really being poisoned. And it's hard to believe, you know, as a business guy, you always want to understand the other side. I want to understand what is the other side thinking, even if you disagree. I don't know what they're thinking, because who can want this? Who can want millions of people from lots of bad places pouring into our country? And you're right, we have not seen, this is just the beginning. You know, we're just starting to see, I call it migrant crime. I really call it Biden migrant crime, but it's too long. So let's just call it migrant crime, and everyone's going to know it's because of Biden. But we've never had anything like this. We have an inflow of people at numbers that are unbelievable. When you go back to New York and you see hundreds of thousands of people, and you can see what the mayor is trying. He wants to do a job, but it's impossible.
He made the city a sanctuary. They made New York City a sanctuary city. I want to go back to what you referred to, what I've been saying. As I point out, we'll put it up on my screen, the numbers of people coming from Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror. They have satellite Syria. We have the home of the Muslim Brotherhood, Egypt. Thousands coming from Egypt that we know of. Thousands coming from Afghanistan. Now Al-Qaeda has training camps up again. Then, you know, over 10, 12, 14,000 from Russia. And I read recently over 37,000 recently from China. Now, why would they make that long journey to our southern border and And my fear is that we have in this country, because these illegals are not vetted, I fear that terrorist cells have set up in this country that will plot, plan, scheme the next 9/11 or worse. I pray to God, as I said, I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, Mr. President.
Well, China has, as of today, 29,000 young men, for the most part, in our country for the last 3 or 4 months. And there's something going on. Look, there's something going on. Now, hopefully we don't have that problem with China. I always had a good relationship with China until the COVID came in. That was a step too far. But we took in hundreds of millions of dollars from China. No president took in 10 cents, not 10 cents. And we not only still got along with them, but when you look at this, and when you look at other countries, we have a lot coming in from Iran. We have a lot coming in from, places that we're fighting right now. Here go the bombs. You don't have to have bombs. We had no war. It's the first one, 78 years we had no war, other than I defeated ISIS. We knocked out ISIS. We took out the leading terrorists in the world, both of them. Took them out, gone. And now,
Baghdadi, Soleimani, the
worst, al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the worst in the world, And you look at it, and you look at what's going on with our country. I tell you, if you come to Texas, this is now a war zone. And they view it as a war zone. And Mexico's doing nothing to help us. They're letting the caravans go unimpeded. I mean, they come in by the thousands. You have caravans with 25,000 people in them just walking into our country. So something has to be done. The problem you have is Arizona. You have a governor, a very liberal governor, that a lot of people say shouldn't be the governor. And in California, Newsom's doing a terrible job. He's doing, other than talking about how wonderful it is, that's about it. You have an outflow of people, as you know better than everybody. I saw your show with him. I said, this guy's talking about California. Millions of people are coming in through California.
free health care.
Free health care, free education, free everything.
Yeah, and you go to jail, they let you out, they don't turn you over to ICE.
But not for our veterans. For our veterans, they get nothing. And for people that have been there for a long time and deserve something, citizens, they get nothing. But they get free health care. If you come in illegally into our country, you get things, and this is why they're coming. The incentive is so great.
Our top geopolitical foe, I would argue, is China. Russia's not far behind. Iran's not far behind. Your friend Little Rocket Man, you got to keep an eye on him. But China's been allowed. Chinese nationals have been buying up thousands and thousands of acres of farmland, ranch land, and land near our military installations. Now, President Xi, he called them and said, I know somebody, John Hannity, would like to buy land, farmland, and ranch land in China. Do you think he'd allow me?
I don't think so. They don't allow that. And they're very possessive of their country. They're very possessive of staying sharp and bright, and frankly coming into this country and buying a lot. And you can take it a step further. United States Steel, and I'm not trying to equate Japan with China, but it's all still, it's outside and they're coming in. Japan is buying U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel used to be the greatest company in the world. Now, it's a long time ago. But I don't like that. I don't like seeing that. And part of the reason is because other countries, in particular China, they dump steel into the United States. I had that problem taken care of largely because I put big tariffs on the dump steel. And I saved the steel industry. But now they're letting it go. And, you're not going to have a steel. You want to build an army tank and you're fighting China, you're going to have to get the steel from China. And I think it's a very dangerous position. I don't think our country, just overall, I don't think our country has ever been in a dangerous position like it is right now. When you look at what's happened with all of the stuff that we're talking about tonight, but beyond that, just this total incompetence. And it began to a large extent with the election, but it began with Afghanistan. When we showed that weakness and that stupidity, taking the military out first, leaving $85 billion worth of equipment behind, 13 soldiers killed. Nobody ever talks about the 38 that were obliterated. They lost their arms, their legs, just obliterated. And we left a lot of Americans behind. You used to cover that, actually. You used to give it a countdown. How many days? I think you stopped doing it. It's so long now. But it's horrible. You have Americans over there that I guess you could call them hostages in a sense, but they are over there trapped behind enemy lines. It's a horrible thing that happened. So our country, and you have Iran getting close to building having a nuclear weapon, possibly 35
IAEA, I'm not a fan of the UN, but they said that they think they now have weapons-grade material to build weapons.
Would have never happened. Iran was broke. I didn't let China, I told China, you're not going to buy or you're not going to do business in the United States. If you buy no business in the United States, I told that to many countries. Nobody bought oil from Iran. It's all about the oil. Nobody bought oil from Iran. And they were broke. They were acknowledged to be broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. Now they have $231 billion. $231 billion that they made over the last 3 years. And
something to make the Iranian mullahs rich again.
Well, they become very rich.
The $10 billion that he allowed from Iraq.
They laugh at him. They laugh at him. They think he's the worst. Look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. Jimmy Carter is a very happy man now because his presidency is brilliant by comparison to Joe Biden. It's brilliant.
Let me ask you this. Speaking of your friend Joe, would have been nice if he came, he would sit with us. I'm not sure if he's capable of having a discussion like this. I tend to doubt it. I've covered that fairly extensively. He shows up today, and he didn't really show up at one of the hot spots at the border. But I played that tape. You know, everybody has children, and if they get children, they're all going to get in trouble. I don't care about what they did so much, but if they lie to you, they get in a whole lot of trouble. And they've been lying to the American people for 3 years. I played that montage. The border's secure, the border's closed, the border's secure, the border's closed. No, it wasn't. You know, our eyes were not lying to us. We've been showing this video, these migrant caravans, for 3 years. And now all of a sudden they have changed the narrative. This is Republicans' fault? Your reaction?
It's all disinformation. Russia, Russia, Russia. Everything they do. And I guess you have to say they're masters at it. They'll say something 1,000. The border is great. The border is closed. And they'll say it 1,000 different times, and some people are going to believe it. I think that's probably the hardest thing that they've got to do because they've destroyed this border, and they're in the process of destroying our country. We're allowing people in our country that we shouldn't have it. We are allowing an extraordinarily tough group of people into our country. When you have prisons and jails and mental institutions being emptied out, not just in South America, all over the world. All over the world they're being emptied out. You can check your prison population throughout the world, and it's all coming into our country. And how can that be good? And how can it be good politically?
Joe Biden is here today. I want to get your reaction to that. And you just saw the other tape. And the other tape showed that there are so many of Trump's policies that we reversed, I can't even list them. It's so long. I gave a short list. And what is your reaction? Why do you think he's here today? I don't think it's an accident. And he had bragged about reversing the policies that you put in place. What's your reaction?
Well, I know why he's here, because he found out that we were coming. We were here. Look, you and I made this agreement 2 weeks ago.
You'll have to say a month and a half ago.
That's interesting. But we made it a while ago, and the word got out, and a couple of weeks ago it started getting out. And then they found out for sure. You put up the nice little picture on the right-hand bottom corner of your television set that I was coming, and all of a sudden they announced that they're coming. But they went to the wrong area. They went to an area that the governor and myself have done a good job on, and there's essentially nobody coming through. So, you know, you're not seeing it. This area is tough.
So, you win in November. The election's on November 5th, about 249 days if I'm right. And how do you reverse this? Nearly 10 million unvetted illegal immigrants. We don't know where they are. Many are given court dates 7, 8 years down the road. They're never showing up for those court dates. Now, you've talked about deportation. How do we identify them? We'll identify where they are, find them and deport them. And is that your promise to the American people?
Well, absolutely. And you have no choice, because this is not sustainable. The cities are going bad. The cities, the country, the whole place is going bad. You know, every state is really a border state. And I was talking to the governor before, and he has done really a great job, Governor Abbott.
You know, Ted Cruz wanted to be here, but Chuck Schumer kept him back in D.C.
No, he's for a good reason, right? Look, we have to deport a lot of people, and they have to start immediately. People don't know that Dwight Eisenhower is a pretty tough president. I never thought of it as that, but 10 years ago you start reading and start really seeing, and he was a big deporter. And he would deport tremendous numbers of people, and he'd bring them just to the other side of the border, they come back. He'd bring them again, they come back. Then he brought them 2,000 miles back, and they didn't come back. We have no choice. And the way you do it is your local police. We have the greatest police, and they don't get the respect that they have to get. And they are treated so badly. They do something, and they end up losing their pension, even if it's a good thing. If they stop crime nowadays, they lose their pension, their family, their house. And we're going to give immunity to police, and we're going to let the police do the job that they have to do. I think it's very important. They understand who these migrants are. They know them by their first name, their last name. They know where they come from. They know everything about. It's going to be the local police are going to turn them over, and we're going to have to move them back to their country.
When the FBI was the world's premier law enforcement agency, and I believe we will achieve that again, hopefully. You had some of the top FBI officials. They have said what we are witnessing is an invasion of military-age men. You ask the question and try to understand people that think differently than you. For the life of me, I can't come up with any rationale or reason for this.
So there's two things that you think of. Number one, they maybe with the votes, they think that they're going to get these people registered and to vote.
I'll give you citizenship. I hope you remember to be at the polls.
All sorts of things. I'm doing very well with Hispanic, and you have a lot of Hispanic in me. But the fact is that you have two things. Either they're stupid, or they hate our culture. Because it can only be basically one of those two things, other than the voting element, which, I don't know, I'm not so sure that they believe that so much. I think it's down the road. Although they are trying to register people right now as we speak, who have no idea what they're doing. And
You may not know this. In New York City, for example, local election, illegal immigrants can vote. We got to take a break. We're just getting started. We're at the border in Eagles Pass, and we're glad you're with us. We continue with former President Donald Trump. He will be with us for the hour. Shelby Park in Eagle Pass, Texas. Thank you for being with us.
For national security reasons, and that Joe Biden needs to stop the electioneering and the photo ops and actually get to work. So first step has been cleared, and I'm appreciative that President Biden in the state of Texas is here to learn more about the issue, but he's been in public service for over 40 years. This is only his second trip to the border areas of Texas. On his flight home on Air Force One, he may want to think about pulling out that pen and rescinding his initial executive orders and going back and installing Title 42, the Remain in Mexico policy, and getting back to enforcing the laws that are already on our books.
You know, George, we do know that he's going to rescind some executive orders. We still don't have the details about which ones ahead of his State of the Union address. That is President Biden. We do know that I think he put 90 such measures, executive orders, as soon as he became president. That essentially undid a lot of the policies that Donald Trump had in effect. So you can have this back and forth with executive orders here, but we know right now that President Biden is going to blame Republicans for the situation now and turning their back on a bipartisan measure that would have addressed this. What do you say to that?
Well, the House, I have to remind your viewers, did pass out of the Republican leadership there a very strong border security bill that would have done a lot of the things that Governor Abbott just talked about in the briefing, and that's going back to enforcing the appropriations that were made during the Trump days to finish the so-called Trump wall, close to 900 miles. This is actually a lawsuit that I brought when I was formerly in the land office here in the state of Texas. Secondly, it would tell ICE, among other things, to go back to detaining criminal aliens that are conducting crimes in the United States. So when you think about Athens, Georgia, when you think about Lisbeth Medina in Edna, Texas, just in December, who was murdered at the hands of an illegal immigrant, ICE needs to follow through and initiate deportation proceedings when people are held here illegally. And then third, if you restore the Remain in Mexico policy, in other words, for people to apply for asylum from their country of origin rather than in a U.S. port of entry, that would alleviate so much of the burden, Neil. And if you look at just this past month on the Texas border, the amount of Venezuelans that have come across the border has been decreased by over 80%, and the reason is because deportation proceedings have immediately been commenced by Mexican authorities and U.S. authorities. So the message is clear that for certain nationalities, if you commence deportation immediately instead of the catch and release narrative that we have on our southern border, you're going to have a deterrent effect and you're going to see less illegal immigration.
You know, George, you've been a crucial player, and of course, Donald Trump himself has been a big fan of you, supported your election, and now your dad raised eyebrows with an editorial in the Wall Street Journal defending Donald Trump, and at least condemning this civil suit against him that really handicapped him, that went too far. And I began to wonder, knowing at first that the olive branch, I guess, between the Bush family and the Trump White House started technically with you, as it continued now with your dad.
Well, potentially, I can't speak on his behalf, but you know, his op-ed, I think, rings home for a lot of folks. The fact is that our court shouldn't be used as a political weapon against opponents, and clearly, New York, the civil fraud case is an abuse of power by the Attorney General in the state of New York. You know, that statute that the case was prosecuted under has only been utilized 12 times, and only one of which has resulted in a fine of this magnitude when there's been actually no cause of injury to third parties. And so I think what my dad is saying is, look, we need to go back to Ben Franklin's original comment in the Constitutional Convention. Let's have a republic if we can keep it, and let's remind ourselves of the division of powers in our country.
Real quickly, George, because President Biden is set to speak right now, but your thoughts on the party coalescing and supporting Donald Trump right now? We saw it out of John Thune, the #2 ranking Republican. More and more Republicans, maybe they say they all, Rhino Republicans, that's starting to gel. Do you buy that?
I do. I think the primaries, for all intents and purposes, are over. It's time for conservatives, for Republicans to start organizing our forward-looking agenda, an aspirational agenda that has brought together so many successful coalitions over the years. So let's get to work, Neil.
All right, we'll watch it very closely. George, very good. Seeing you again, my best to your family. George B. Bush, right now the President of the United States, responding to probably some remarks that Donald Trump just made. Let's listen.
Federal personnel here working on fire suppression. That includes the deployment of 100 federal firefighters and more on the way, as well as dozens of additional fire engines, air tankers, small planes, helicopters to help fight the flames. And FEMA has already guaranteed that Texas and Oklahoma will be reimbursed for the cost of keeping folks safe. And we're grateful for the brave first responders risking their lives to save others. And we urge folks to listen to the warnings of the local officials, listen to them. I've flown over a lot of these wildfires since I've been president. Matter of fact, I've been a helicopter in the west and the southwest and the northwest, flown over more land burned to the ground, all the vegetation gone, than this entire state of Maryland in square footage. The idea there's no such thing as climate change, I love that, man. I love some of my Neanderthal friends who still think there's no climate change. Well, my administration is going to keep building on the progress we've made fighting climate crisis, and we're going to help folks rebuild themselves in the wake of these disasters. And we rebuild to the standards that are the up-to-date standards and building codes and the rest. Because if you fly over these areas that are burned to the ground, you'll see in the midst of 20 homes that are just totally destroyed, one home sitting there because it had the right roof on it. And anyway, since I took office, FEMA's provided Texas alone over $13 billion in 3 years in disaster relief after fires and winter storms across the state. And when disasters strike, there's no red state or blue state where I come from. They're just communities and families looking for help. So we're standing with everyone affected by these wildfires. We're going to continue to help you respond and recover. Now, turning to the purpose of my visit. I want to thank Congressman Gonzalez. There you are, pal. I thank him for the passport into his district, but he's been a great partner. I also want to thank Mayor Cowan for his partnership And I want to thank County Judge Trevino for over 30 local officials who've joined us here today. No one works harder for a safe, secure border than all of you. And Secretary Mayorkas has joined us today, and he's joined by 7 mayors in cities and towns across South Texas. 4 county judges here from across
Shameful.
the state. I told a county judge that I used to be a county official. It's the hardest job in American politics. You know why? They think you can do everything, you don't have the budget. So anyway. And the 2 leaders of the Texas legislature, State House Leader Trey is here, Trey Martinez Fisher, and the State Senate Leader, Carol Aleda. And all the other local officials that are here today, I want to say thanks. Folks, it's real simple. It's time to act. It's long past time to act. I just received a briefing from the Border Patrol at the border, as well as Immigration and Enforcement, asylum officers, and they're all doing incredible work under really tough conditions. Really tough conditions. They told me what you already know, and we already know. They desperately need more resources. Say it again, they desperately need more resources. Need more agents, more officers, more judges, more equipment in order to secure our border. Folks, it's time for us to move on this. We can't wait any longer.
Oh, you waited 3 years. Get me a break.
I introduced the bill I sent to Congress, a comprehensive plan to fix the broken immigration system and to secure the border. But no action was taken.
Well, of course not.
Months ago, my team began a serious negotiation in a bipartisan group of senators, leading conservative Republicans and progressive Democrats. And it resulted in a compromise bill. It's the toughest set of border security
Nonsense.
we've ever seen in this country.
Shameful.
It's pretty basic. With this deal, we could hire 1,500 additional border security agents, 1,500 additional officers, and between ports of entry. For the last 4 years, staffing has been roughly that, flat, just flat. Agents working overtime, spending long hours patrolling the border, making major sacrifices.
Hot air.
It takes a big toll on them.
Goodness gracious, shameful.
That's why in December I signed a bill finally getting Border Patrol agents what I've been pushed by and reminded by the congressman, overtime pay they deserve. Finally getting overtime pay. I mean, it's ridiculous it took this long. It was a long past time, and I was proud to do it, but we need to do more. It's time to step up. It's time to step up. Provide them with significantly more personnel.
It's time you stepped out of office.
We also need more immigration judges to help handle the backlog. There are 2 million cases. A backlog of 2 million cases. This bipartisan deal would provide funding for 100 more immigration judges immediately. It would also establish new, efficient, and fair process for the government to consider asylum claims for those arriving at our border. Today, the process to get a decision on an asylum claim takes 5 to 7 years. Now, you all know it down here, but the people around the country don't understand it. It's far too long. You come in, you say I have incredible fear, and we've changed that standard to make it harder. We want to change to make it harder. And what happens? You say, well, okay, you've been in the country, but come back in 5 to 7 years, maybe as many as 8 years, and you don't get a hearing from before a judge to determine whether you can stay. This will encourage more people. This encourages more people to come to the country. If they get by the first, say they got another 5, 7, 8 years before they have to do anything, because they know they cannot handle the caseloads quickly, and they'll be able to stay in this country in the meantime. With new policies in this bill, and the addition of 4,300 additional asylum officers, we'll be able to reduce that process to less than 6 months. That would have a serious deterrent effect on those coming north. When the criminal gangs say, we'll get you north, but it's $8,000, they say, no, wait, let me get this straight. I'm going to go north. It's going to cost me probably closer to $8,000, I guess, equivalent. And I'm going to get there, and in 6 months, they may be able to get rid of me. I don't know, man. 6 months, 7 years, 2 different things. The person who's thinking about entering the United States understands that cases to be decided in a few weeks or months instead of 5 to 7 years. They're less likely to come in the first place. They're not going to pay the cartels thousands of dollars to make that journey. Knowing that, will be turned around quickly. Look, and we also need more cutting-edge inspection machines to detect and stop fentanyl from entering the United States of America. A year ago, I stood at the border in El Paso and I watched these machines at work. They were able to detect everything from fentanyl to weapons to people being smuggled in cargo containers. This compromise bill would provide an additional $424 million for 100 more of these machines and could save lives in the process. This compromise legislation will also give me as president, or the next president, emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border between ports of entry when the numbers of immigrants and migrants, overwhelm the border, straining the Border Patrol's ability to process them. At the same time, at our legal ports of entry, like here in Brownsville, we're making investments in infrastructure. My bipartisan infrastructure law is going to provide nearly $4 billion new dollars to boost security, to ease waiting times at land and ports of entry like Brownsville. And I want to thank again
3 years of lies.
Get that through and get the
Shameful.
As the law. That you get the money for example, that's how you get the money for the Gateway Bridge from that fund. Folks, the bipartisan border security deal is a win for the American people. And it's a win for the people of Texas, and it's fair for those who legitimately have a right to come here to begin with. It's a win for the people of Brownsville, and I believe that's why the Border Patrol Union endorsed it. I believe that's why the National Chamber of Commerce endorsed it, not known as a Democratic organization with a capital D. Look, and that's why the Wall Street Journal endorsed it as well. This is a truly bipartisan initiative.
Nonsense.
That's why the bipartisan South Texas Alliance of Cities endorsed it. Folks, I didn't get everything I wanted in that compromise bipartisan bill, but neither did anybody else. Compromise is part of the process. That's how democracy works. That's how it's supposed to work. Compromise is a very positive step on the critical...
How it works is what you've done to the border, Joe Biden, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Along the border know that. We need to have their backs, your backs. I want the people to understand clearly what happened here. This bill was in the United States Senate. It was on its way to being passed. Then it was derailed by rank-and-file politics, partisan politics. The U.S. Senate needs to reconsider this bill. And those senators who oppose it need to set politics aside and pass it on merits, not on whether it's going to benefit one party or benefit the other party. It's about whether it benefits the American people. It's what the American people deserve. The Speaker of the House needs to put this bill on the floor, because if you put it on the floor unrestricted, it would pass. The majority of Democrats and Republicans in both houses support this legislation until someone came along and said, don't do that, it'll benefit the incumbent. That's a hell of a way to do business in America for such a serious
Shame on you. You're the one making it political and have all along.
My Republican friends in Congress for blocking this bill to show a little spine. Pass a bipartisan, there's another amendment, bipartisan. Conservative leaders supported this border security bill. Let's remember who we work for God's sake. We work for the American people. Let me end with this. I understand my predecessor's legal past today. So here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you, in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together. You know and I know it's the toughest, most efficient, most effective border security bill this country has ever seen.
Nonsense.
Instead of playing politics with the issue, why don't we just get together and get it done? Let's remember who the heck we work for. We work for the American people, not the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. We work for the American people. And let's remember who we are. We're the United States of America. Now, no, I mean, just think about this. There's nothing beyond our capacity. Nothing when we work together. And of all things we should be working together on.
What about the last 3 years, how you worked together?
God bless you all. May God protect our borders.
Shame on you.
God protect our troops. Now I'd like to turn this over to Secretary Mayorkas. Thank you.
And I wouldn't believe a word he has to say.
All right, Joe Biden, correct a couple of things there. He's blaming a lot of this on Republicans and this border security bill that had some bipartisan support. The fact of the matter is, though, for quite some time there have been criticisms of the president himself not to do anything about the border surge and not to even tighten the border, do anything at all, and hanging his hat on maybe a bipartisan package that never succeeded. But to say that that was the reason why we're in the pickle we're in is probably at best an exaggeration. Let's go to Dave Crenshaw right now, the Texas congressman who regrets that measure not coming to pass, but says there's a lot more at stake and a lot more to blame for where we are right now. Congressman, thank you for your patience through this. Your thoughts on the significance of this day? A former president, aligned this much in saying, well, the border's important. What do you think?
Yeah, you know, Republicans have been trying to make this issue important to Democrats for years. So ever since I got to Congress, I've been trying to make Democrats care about it. And they finally care about it, or at least they're pretending to. You know, we went down to Brownsville, of course. Now, Brownsville's one of the places where you have the least amount of illegal border crossings, and there's some lessons to be learned there. They have walls. They have some of the most advanced technology. They're fully staffed. So it's interesting that he went down there. There's a bunch of things that can be true at once. Biden screwed this up from day one. Right, he rescinded a bunch of Trump's executive orders. He put in new executive orders. He created the magnet of massive waves of illegal immigration that we're seeing. So for him to try and lay blame on Republicans because too many Republicans didn't like that particular deal that he seems to like, that's a very disingenuous claim. So you've got two competing stances here. We've got Republicans who are, our perfect bill is H.R. 2. We passed it last year. So Biden says that his bill is this other one. I don't disagree that we now have to talk and meet in the middle, and I urge our leadership to actually do that. I still think there's an ever increasingly smaller window of opportunity to do that, where we can actually add border security measures to, say, a Ukraine aid package. I don't want to pass the Ukraine aid package without looking at our own border first. I think when people ask the question, why can we support their border but not ours, I think that's a valid question.
Amen. I agree.
For months. But we need
do you think we'll ever see that, Congressman? Do you think we'll ever see it? I know hope springs eternal, but it doesn't look likely.
It doesn't look likely. That window of opportunity is increasingly small, but it has not disappeared yet, which is why I keep saying it. There is a deal to be made. You've got the Langford Cinema deal that Biden is talking about. Look, to be honest, it was just too complicated. It was too complicated. It tried to cover way too many things. You need a much more simplified version that brings more Republicans into the mix, not just one person in the room trying to debate or trying to negotiate what is very complex legal issues.
All right, well, you've been trying to thread that needle. Not too many are doing anything approaching that. Congressman, thank you very much. And in light of this breaking news, I do want to bring your attention to Marianne Williamson right now. But once again, Democratic presidential candidate. She had stopped her campaign and then got it activated again after doing a little bit better than people thought she would be doing. In Michigan, did better than a certain Democratic congressman. Bottom line, she's back in the race. I wonder, Marianne, what you make of this back and forth on the border, whether either of these guys, the present president and the prior president, has a solution, at least on the border, that appeals to you.
Well, they're both wrong and they're both right. We do need to be tough, and President Biden needed to get to work more quickly. He said that when he first got into office, he had an immigration plan. It's important to remember that he also had a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, so why didn't it get accomplished? I myself have visited Eagle Pass, and I remember local officials there telling me that they felt oppressed by the state government, but they felt ignored and abandoned by the federal government. America has to be tough here, but we cannot allow this situation or any situation to tempt us to compromise our own humanity and our own moral principles. The president.
So let me ask you about that, Marianne. I'm sorry, yes. We're tight for time, but I do, if you don't mind, you unsuspended your campaign. This was not the sole issue. You were disappointed, angry at Joe Biden, that he certainly headed for defeat. What does your entrance mean now that you're back in?
Well, today a Bloomberg poll came out that shows Trump beating Biden in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Nevada. This is a three-alarm fire for the Democrats or for anyone who doesn't wish to see Trump get back in the White House. So on one hand, you could say that this is a message campaign.
Country mile, right? Trump beats you by country mile. So what argument can you bring to Democrats?
You don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know that. If I actually,
you think you do better against Donald Trump right now? You think you do better?
Once people hear me, absolutely. Medicare for All is supported by a majority of Republicans as well as Democrats. Tuition-free college supported by a majority of Republicans as well as Democrats. My agenda actually is more in alignment with the majority of the American voters than either Trump or Biden, to be honest.
All right, so the way you see it now, people forget when you suspend a campaign, you can always unsuspend it. But what do you tell Republicans are looking at the race there who also suspended their campaigns, about a dozen of them? How about unsuspending theirs too? What do you think? If you had to give them recommendations.
I wouldn't be recommending anything to anyone. They can run their own campaigns, but I will tell you something.
Okay.
I have some respect for Nikki Haley. Even though I don't agree with her politically, I think Nikki Haley's grit, staying in this race, making sure her message gets out there, knowing that the message and the values that she believes in are actually more important than the horse race. I agree with her.
The border was no problem under President Donald Trump because he fixed the problem. Unfortunately, all these other people are one thing, they don't really want to fix the problem. They want the borders to stay open, unfortunately, which will lead to our disaster as a country.
Hello everybody, I'm Jesse Waters along with Judge Janine Pirro, Jessica Tarlov, Katie Pavlich, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Border in Texas, and seeing two different realities. On the left, President Biden wrapping up remarks in Brownsville after shuffling his way around the sanitized version of the border. The area he's in once saw 10,000 illegals a day, but thanks to the Texas razor wire he wants to remove, crossings are at an all-time low. Here's the president.
Folks, it's real simple. It's time to act. It's long past time to act. They desperately need more resources, need more agents, more officers, more judges, more...
Well, then act and quit crying about it.
Folks, it's time for us to move on this. We can't wait any longer.
It's your job. You can do it by executive order. Reverse your orders and go back to the ones that President Donald Trump had that worked.
To begin with. It's a win for the people of Brownsville, and I believe that's why the Border Patrol Union endorsed it.
And on the right, former President Trump was touring Eagle Pass, Texas, at the section of the border that's been bombarded by hordes of illegals. It was a big contrast to Sleepy's visit. Within the last 5 days, Biden's Brownsville has seen just 46 migrant encounters, while Trump's Eagle Pass has been rocked by over 2,000. The former president getting a tour from Texas Governor Greg Abbott and letting it rip.
This is a Joe Biden invasion. This is a Biden invasion. And now the United States is being overrun by the Biden migrant crime. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. It's migrant crime. Joe Biden will never say Laken Riley's name, but we will say it and we will remember it. We're not going to forget her. And I'll say this, it's a military operation. I mean, we have this is like a war.
So, Donald Trump said her name. I don't believe Joe Biden said Laken Riley's name, but the way he's making this into a military invasion really hits home with a lot of people and should be effective.
Well, I think it was right on point, especially for this moment, because what America is seeing and hearing about are these horrific crimes. And Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, talked about it right after former President Trump spoke. And he talked about a 2-year-old being shot in the face, a 14-year-old being stabbed at knife point, another individual, all illegals in this country, stabbing a man that had so much blood on him, not counting the blood of the man that he was stabbing. Look, we are at a very critical point in this country where it almost isn't about just the border anymore. And I still, Jesse, I don't understand why Joe Biden went to Brownsville and then he's claiming, oh, we got to do something about the border. 6 people came across yesterday. You know, he could have said, hey, I solved the border issue. But, okay, so he comes down and he goes to a place in Brownsville where 6 people came through. Right now, the American people are more concerned about who is coming through. There isn't a person from El Salvador who came into this country 4 times, and there was a red notice. A red notice means that the country of El Salvador has issued a worldwide alert for this individual. They are that dangerous. And this person has come in and out of the United States 4 times. He was deported once and then came back 4 times. A red alert from El Salvador for an MS-13 gang member. They killed to get into the gang. So what you've got today are these, it's almost like the tale of 2 cities. One guy's standing there saying, you know, it's about politics, we got to come together. And the other guy's saying, guys, you want to talk about an existential threat? It's not climate change, and it's not the nuclear war. It is immigration that is impacting every person in this country by countries
That's exactly
that are
right.
emptying their jails and emptying their mental institutions based not upon discrimination, but what we're seeing.
Jessica, why doesn't Joe Biden just do something with executive power to just shut everything down?
Absolutely.
Well, he has teased that he's going to. I also don't think it's possible to do that. You hear a lot about these 90 executive orders that he undid and everything would just be perfect without that. A lot of that was due to what was tied up in the court system and actually wasn't Joe Biden's decision anyway. And former DHS Secretary Jay Johnson was on with the Fox and Friends crew this morning. I would recommend everyone watch it. It's a long 17-minute interview. And he's talking about how, A, this is just what happens. Like when Donald Trump came into office, he undid a lot of what Obama had done. And guess what? President Obama was the best at keeping migrants out of his country. He deported more undocumented people than George Bush and Donald Trump. A lot to learn there from him.
Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more.
Like what? Like, what's your little bit?
I'm talking hundreds of thousands.
Oh, that's
per year.
That's nothing.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty
It's
good.
amazing.
I mean,
Donald Trump is
also
amazing.
deported hundreds of thousands per year as well.
Okay. What I was going to start with, because I didn't know exactly what question you were going to give me, is the baseline that nothing Joe Biden was going to do today was going to be good enough for you. So that's the basis that I'm working from. Now we'll go to what Secretary Johnson was talking about. So
debate. Joe doesn't want to debate Trump on the issues, and the media will protect him. So why doesn't Trump just go places that forces Joe to debate him? Next time, go to a supermarket chain. Show that the prices are 20% up and pressure Joe to show up at a supermarket. Maybe he will. Or go to a street where all the stores are closed down and the homeless are living on the street. Maybe Joe will acknowledge that. Shame him into actually addressing the issues since he's too scared to debate.
Shame him.
Shame him.
Shame, shame, shame.
Shame on
Jessica.
you all.
Shame on you, Jessica.
I don't even need you to hear that you love me because I know you love me.
You can feel it.
I can feel it. Coming up, liberals warn the apocalypse is here over the Supreme Court decision to hear Trump's immunity case.
President Biden descending from Air Force One there. He is visiting the border for just the second time in his presidency. Is he going to approach the cameras? Of course not. He is going to be meeting later on today with Border Patrol. The purpose of this trip for him is really just to have a backdrop to pressure Republicans to vote for the bipartisan bill that was negotiated in the Senate but failed to clear that chamber. It was endorsed by the Border Patrol Union, but they are not supporting his visit today. In fact, according to our Bill Maloogian, who's been reporting on the trip that the former President Trump is making, the Border Patrol said not to mention his name.
If you were under the wing right now, would you be yelling, Mr. President, come over, speak to us?
Of course. Is back in studio.
Trump all the time, and he'd come over.
We're back in with our hands too. We just say, "Can you come here?" Or even the DHS secretary who's with him. You know, the president is there to rally some sort of a push to get this across, but it's not going anywhere right now. This border bill, it didn't clear the Senate, and he's going to be trying to make the case that Republicans have done nothing. Of course, they answer that claim with, well, we passed H.R. 2, and you could, Mr. President, reinstate Trump-era policies with the swipe of a pen if you chose to. So far, he has not elected to do that.
You know, we were talking to Brandon Judd yesterday from the National Border Patrol Council, and I said to him, if Biden keeps saying that he can't do anything by executive action, when he undid all of these executive actions that Trump had in place that were very, very effective, and he gave us a laundry list of executive actions he thought that the president could take, none of which included the Remain in Mexico policy, which, of course, under Trump was so controversial. So
There's a lot of suggestions for what he could do with his executive pen short of remaining in Mexico.
And it's funny because he first said that there was nothing that he could do, and then they indicated that they could do something, and that they're going to try to approach that around the State of the Union. But the way they frame it, whatever they can do is going to be less than what Congress could do.
That's next week, so we'll see what they come up with.
All right, let's bring in Noe Silva. He works and lives on a Texas ranch about 20 miles north of Eagle Pass. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Can you tell us what the reaction is in your community to having both the former president and the current president making their cases today in separate trips, dueling trips to the border?
Well, I mean, there's always a lot of promises, and I wish I could get together and do something about it. It's the problem that we have is all these people coming in. It's always a lot of promises, a lot of ideas they want to do, but nothing is done. The damage they do when they come through the property, it's I mean, tearing up fences and the property, you know, the trash and all of that.
Yeah. I know you've been running that ranch for about 8 years, sir. Can you describe what the change has been like since you took over, and where you're at now, what your daily living is like, and how it's changed?
Well, when I first got here, taking years ago, you probably wouldn't see anybody, you know, illegals coming through. Every now and then you might come in through one of them or two or three, and that's about it. But now, I mean, it's just crazy. Too many people, by the thousand. And the damages that they do to the property, I mean, it's not fair for the man that owns the property. I mean, it costs a lot of money to do all these repairs. You know, they run through the fences when human trafficking is going on, and the chase off the highway and stuff. I mean, you can see the vehicles and how they tear up the fence. It costs a lot of money to repair all of that.
Yeah, and
now
we're beginning only now to hear in blue cities about the cost of having this influx of migrants, a cost you guys have been very familiar with in those border communities for a long time, and only just now people are beginning to realize. Noe Silva, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it, sir.
Well, he just defines Texas, doesn't he?
He does.
A look at Eagle Pass as we await the arrival of former President Trump at the southern border. He is expected any moment now. We will have the very latest coming up next.
A little bit better, due in no small part to layers of wire that have been laid by the Texas National Guard at the direction of Governor Abbott against the wishes of the White House, who has tried to fight that and get that wire taken down. So a lot of irony at play here today as the president visits some of these places and tries to get a handle on what's going on. Bill Belushi is reporting live.
Biden the chance to, after going to El Paso and saying, hey, there's nothing to see here, going to Brownsville and saying, hey, there's nothing to see here, everything's working. What do you think?
I think the President of the United States, the former President of the United States, has a totally different philosophy about governing, in that he likes to go into the problem, even if it means turmoil and an unscripted situation. Remember when you were talking about guns, he used to bring the cameras in and bring in out a bunch of experts, and he used to be covering the White House every day. And people used to just talk, and he'd want to see how everyone reacted. He wants to go into a situation that is out of control. He wants to go to a situation that needs to be fixed and addressed, where President Biden wants the opposite. Remember, he went to El Paso after they cleaned up the entire city, and we watched a German Shepherd pretend to find drugs in a police car, and he said, wow, congratulations, I went to the border. So he's going to go to Brownsville and say, look, my policies are working here. But guys, this is what it's about. It's about that bipartisan bill that was put forward by Langford, Sinema, and Murphy. And that's what this president's going to talk about. I got a plan. I worked hard to fix this, to put this plan together. I don't like everything in it. And Donald Trump walked away from it. So Donald Trump's going to go to the border and say, this is exactly what I'll do.
So this morning, you talked to Jay Johnson, who was President Obama's Homeland Security Secretary. And here's what he said about the crisis on the border. Listen here.
Have you ever seen it this bad?
No, Bert, it's a crisis on multiple levels in multiple places. There are solutions to this problem. We need more Border Patrol officers. We need more judges. We need an emergency authority like a Title 42 when the numbers get high. We need to fix how one qualifies for asylum in this country, raise the bar on the front end.
So a lot of what he was talking about, there was stuff that was included in the original Senate bill, but more so than that, I think it's interesting that he is calling this a crisis and saying something has to be done, because he's an Obama loyalist. And he's sending a very clear message to the Biden administration that they got a big problem on their hands.
Right. And the president wants to go on the offensive and says it's not really my fault anymore. I don't think anyone's buying it. This is what gives me hope for fixing it. I don't care about the politics. Is because when Donald Trump came on the scene and said, hey, I want to build a big wall, and I'm going to put a door in there, but a lot of these countries are not sending us their best. People are outraged. He doesn't like Hispanics. He thinks everybody's below an American. Excuse me. Now, if you say they're not sending us their best, go, no kidding. I've seen Chicago. I've seen New York. I've seen Philadelphia. Yeah. I've seen the brutal murder in Georgia. Now the sanctuary city speaker in New York City is the anomaly, and the mayor saying it's time to cooperate with ICE is now the norm. And I think that gives me hope.
On that point about Lake and Rowley, I want to play again what Karine Jean-Pierre said yesterday at the briefing when she was asked if the president has reached out to the family of this poor girl. Listen here.
I do want to extend our deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of Lake and Hope Riley. Given this is an active case, I'm going to be really careful about speaking to that case more specifically. Would have to refer anything specific to that case to law enforcement and obviously ICE. And the president, I don't have anything regarding to the president speaking to the family.
Translation, given that this is a result of policies that we have been roundly criticized for, I'm going to duck this question and not say anything about it.
And you know why? Because this does not go over the heading to even pretend that it's as if you could blame Republicans on this bipartisan bill. This is the lawlessness that allows the catch and release, that stops the remain in Mexico, no longer pressures Central and South American countries to enforce their border and keep their people home. Mexico doesn't enforce their border. People come streaming in. All they have to say is, I feel threatened in my country, and now we're finding out there was no threat. This is opportunity to come here. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity because this president has opened up the border. I'm not even sure if he realizes how bad it is or if he was briefed effectively, but it is so bad that it is now the #1 issue for Republicans, as usual, independents, and Democrats in the country. And the president, you own this. Don't tell me it's climate change and bad governments. We've always had hurricanes, typhoons, and bad governments, communisms, and dictatorships. That's called Central and South America, sadly. Yeah. Venezuela is just the latest example. He decided to reapproach with Venezuela, not us and not the previous administration.
Nick, don't say that you can't talk about it because it's an active investigation when you talk about so many different things that are under active investigation. Hey, apparently former President Trump did speak when he got off of Trump Force One in Del Rio. Let's roll that tape right now.
Nice weather, beautiful day, but a very dangerous border. We're going to take care of it. Thank you.
All right, well, that was very quick, but I assume what he's talking about there is that if he were to be elected president again, all of those executive orders that Joe Biden rescinded on his first day in office, he will probably put them back in action again.
John, if you want to solve this problem, you know what you do? If you're President Biden, hey, I want to meet with the governor of Texas. I understand that you got a great way to enforce the border. You did it yourself. Let me see what's going on in Shelby Park. Let me see what exactly the problem is. And maybe he could bring his checkbook and reimburse Texas for the billions they have to spend because he wouldn't enforce the border himself. So now he's got to get National Guard men and women out of their other jobs, and they got to go do the job the Border Patrol is not allowed to do. Texas is taking things into their own hand. If there was a Republican governor still in Arizona and California, I think they do the same thing in New Mexico. But we're seeing what happens if you want to do it. The Texas governor is doing it, The president doesn't want that confrontation. This president's asking for it. And Brandon Judd, the union president, is not with 44. He's not with 46. He's with 45 at the border. I think that shows you who he's got more confidence in.
Well, it's a shame what they've had to do to their Rio Grande riverbank. It looks like the Berlin Wall, but I guess they felt that they had no choice. And here's the bottom line. It's working. Brian, good to see you. We'll see you this weekend, too, and tomorrow morning on Fox and Friends.
All right. Thanks so much, John.
Appreciate it.
Travels with Dr. John Stephenson today has the pleasure of being with Molly Fisher, and she happens to be a physical therapist for St. Elizabeth Hospital. Now, I've been praising a lot of people from St. Elizabeth Hospital lately because they deserve it. They have worked very hard at bringing me back into seeing the light of the land at 80 years old. And after being in the hospital and getting the great pacemaker and having all the great work by the great surgeons, Dr. Kay and, of course, Dr. Isiola and all the other fabulous doctors and nurses, and all the way down to the building servicemen. They care for you, they love you, and they give you incentive to get better. Same thing Molly's doing today, giving me incentive to get better. So I want to sing her a little song that I used to sing to my students many years ago, as I substitute taught sometimes, just to learn about all the different school systems. I subbed in all the schools of Cincinnati. I subbed in Boone County, Campbell County, Kenton County, Covington, Beechwood, just to learn all the systems, and then went on to be Superintendent of Education for the state of Kentucky, so that I would go there with wisdom on what needed to really be done in our schools. And you know, the most important thing we need to do is make sure the students and the teachers have the Word of God and the Holy Bible and love. They all need love. Love the students. And the song goes like this. Some people say a man is made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. A muscle and blood and skin and bones. A mind that's weak and a back that's strong. You load 16 tons, and what did you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. I was born and it was drizzle and rain. Fighting and trouble was my middle name. I was raised in a cane brick by old mama line. There ain't no honky-tonk woman make me walk the line. You load 16. I have to tell her that one every once in a while. No honky-tonk woman make me walk the line. You load 16 tons. And what did you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. Now, when I was substitute teaching, I would look out over that classroom, and I'd say, there's 50 minutes in this class. 10 minutes of it is yours. 40 minutes of it is mine. I won't mess with yours if you don't mess with mine. And I'd jump up on that desktop then. That's real thin, you know. And I'd look them in the eye and I'd say, because if you see me coming, better step aside. A lot of men didn't and a lot of men died. One fist of iron, the other of steel. If the right one don't get you, then the left one will. You load 16 tons, and what did you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. And the folks down in eastern Kentucky and western Kentucky, the mining territory, they love that song. Sang by Tennessee Ernie Ford, but written by a good Kentucky boy from Merle Travis from Muhlenberg County. God bless you and have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the classroom today, folks. We're going to love you and teach you something. She's okay with it. Just push the tiny camera.
Okay. Say cheese.
Wait a second.
Oh, all right. Wait a minute. We got to get a stick in. All right. All right. Say St. Elizabeth Home Health.
St. Elizabeth Home Health Care. Praise the Lord.
There you go.
All right. So if they, I may be seeing you again if they need